You have Saint George and the Dragon story. You have after that Spencer, the Fairy Queen. And then you have Milton. In Italy, you have Tasso. You have Dante. They have epic elements. And then when you go further back, in India, you have Mahabharata and Ramayana. Then after Mahabharata and Ramayana, you have rewritings of these two. For example, you have Meghnad Badh Kavya by Michael Madhusudan Dutt. And then you have very recent epics in prose, like Tolkien's Silmarillion and Lord of the Rings. But to come back, Epic of Gilgamesh is fascinating. Then you have Bible. The Bible is also epic in many ways. But why the Epic of Gilgamesh is fascinating is it is written by, first off, it comes from an oral tradition. Naturally, many stories were there about Gilgamesh and maybe other kings, but finally it settled around this one king, Gilgamesh. And then there were many years of writing. There were many books written about Gilgamesh. Finally, it was all gathered together into what we now know as Epic of Gilgamesh. And what's interesting to think of is that the person writing it, probably he did not have any models to work on. I mean, it's different from Homer's epic of the Iliad or the Odyssey, or Virgil's epic of the Aeneid, which I did not mention, because they are more recent ones. Because Homer probably came from a tradition where he had an idea what to do, because there were also people around him like Aristotle and all, or Plato, Socrates. All these people were discussing not only literature, but they were discussing, what is bucolic poetry, what is pastoral poetry, what is a lyric, what is the epic, what is a tragedy, what is a comedy. So they maybe they had an idea how to write an epic. Maybe Homer had an idea, but the author of Gilgamesh, this is the only problem with the Gilgamesh. I'm unable to say the names, and I don't even know whether I'm saying them correctly or not, because they come from antiquity. But supposedly it's a person called Sin Leki Unini who wrote the Epic of Gilgamesh. And when we come to him, he of course had examples in his own tradition from earlier on, but he didn't really have like examples of how to write an epic. And if you read the epic and you also read how it was in its original language, and if you listen to talks by experts on it, it was written in half lines, and then they had these couplets. It's very brief, it's very short, concise, precise. But this is the point I want to make. I mean, just like the Bible is a mixed book made of elements of myth, history, epic, lyric, proverbs, all kinds. It's a mixture actually, because it spans over so many years and it has many authors. But here, seemingly there's only one author, which is not true, because he's collecting different stories by different people and putting it together in a sense. But there's one collector, there's one editor, there's one author finally in a sense, which is startlingly modern. But there you see that just like, in a book like the Mahabharata or Ramayana or the Bible, early ones, the really real masterpieces, you can say. This is also, it's a mix of myth and of history. And it also has, elements of comedy and tragedy. And it brings in poetry. There's a mourning song where Gilgamesh is mourning over his friend, which is an elegy. And there's a song of praise for Gilgamesh, which is an ode. And this is all being written before words like elegy and ode come into existence. So it's a mixed book. So although we say epic, what I want to point out first of all is that you can call it an epic, but it's not an epic. It's more like an attempt towards something much bigger, something that later would come to be called kind of writing that is considered as scripture in many parts of the world. And so naturally, what according to you, I really wish that, can we have the mic open for everyone, Sujya? because I would like to have a kind of discussion rather than, a lecture, if it's okay with you.
It's perfectly fine by me. It's perfectly okay with me. I'll be very happy. I've asked everyone to unmute.
Yeah, very good. Can you all unmute?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what I want to ask you is this, what do you think? I mean, I will ask questions because I want to lead you. I mean, it's not like a free discussion, but I once held a creative writing course, a very powerful one, along with my brother, and it was on mythologies. And we showed them, of course, Joseph Campbell and James Frazier and Mercia Eliot and all these people. And we tried to make them differentiate between mythology, legend, folktale, folklore, and fairy tale. So you have to keep these 5 distinctions in mind. But now we are not dealing with mythology exactly. We are dealing with epic. So what, according to you, I'm going to ask you questions. You just have to reply yes or no. Uh, should every epic have a hero in it? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Well, in
Yes.
statistics, in mathematics is the epic, that's what they say, isn't it? It deals with the exploits of an hero.
Exactly. So every epic should have a hero in it. So who's the hero in this one?
Gilgamesh.
Gilgamesh.
Gilgamesh. Yeah, Gilgamesh.
But
Now,
I have a question. When I was going through, the Wikipedia version of Gilgamesh, I found that along with him there is another character called Enkidu. Enkidu. Enkidu.
yes.
Now,
Yeah,
some versions say that he was the servant of Gilgamesh, but the epic considers him a companion who occupies equal importance as such. So,
right. Yeah, right. I mean, you see, but Enkidu is not the hero. So every epic must have a hero, and it's about the exploits of the hero, and the hero is Gilgamesh. And there's an equally important character called Enkidu. There are many equally important characters. We'll come to them. And Enkidu is like a servant and a brother and a friend and even a lover. Enkidu appears later in modern narratology in the writings of people like, Vladimir Prop, or when you do film narrative, there's a character called the sidekick. So you can say that a modern way of describing Enkidu is he is the perfect foil or the perfect sidekick for Gilgamesh. So now we have these 2 characters. Now let me ask you the next question. So we have a hero. Now should this hero be a man, or should this hero be a god, or should this hero be a man god or god, half man? What do you think in an epic?
well, okay, I don't want to be the only one talking. I want the others to talk.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, you probably know all the answers to that. So let the others tell me.
Yeah, I think in this epic is half god and half man. I think that's what even Wikipedia just now around 6:15. I just had to to get an idea of what the discussion. So I just came to know that's it's half god and half man.
Yeah, okay. I suggest that you don't use Wikipedia during the class. You need to Google after.
Because only at
You know,
6:15 I thought I have to read something and then come for the discussion. Yeah.
yeah. No, it's okay if you read even along with it, but let me have your idea. Let me have your idea. I mean, let's not follow the idea of what it should be like, but you can also think of it in terms of what you want it to be like. So if you say, I want the hero of an epic to be only a man, that's fine with me. If another person says, like Rosalind or whoever else says, I want the epic to have a heroine, that's also fine with me. So I mean, let's break out of these patterns along with studying what an epic is. So there
So,
is an epic.
yeah, the hero can be a man or even a woman. Sadly speaking,
Exactly.
not many epics have the woman as the main character. Maybe they consider women
Exactly.
really weak, and therefore they don't
Uh, ex-
stick with this concept.
Yeah, so this is the point I want to say, that when we speak about epic, we don't need necessarily to follow the traditional. I told you two traditional things of how people look at epics. They say an epic must have a hero, and then they say the hero must be, half god and half man. So in this case, he's actually, 2/3 god and 1/3 man, or 1/3 god and 2/3 man. I forget, but I think it's 2/3 god and 1/3 man.
Yes.
But uh, but look at it comparatively. Who is the hero of Iliad? Not Odyssey, Iliad.
Achilles, right? Isn't it Achilles?
Achilles. Yeah, Achilles is also half god and half
Man.
man.
Yes.
And what about let's say, what about Karna?
Yeah, even Karna
What
is
about Karna?
half god, half man. He's the
Karna
son.
is half god. Karna is half god and half man.
Yes.
Okay. What about Buddha? I mean, do you know the story about the birth of Buddha?
Yeah, it is a divine, immaculate conception, I would say, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, he's born of an Airavat, but he has a mother. Okay,
Yeah.
of a white Airavat, a white elephant. But he has a mother also. So again, it's the same. So what about Jesus? So again, you have the story of half God and half
Man.
man. So what? And another thing, what role should this? What role will he have in society? Usually, this half God and half man. Will he be aristocracy, nobility, bourgeois, middle class? Will he be poor? Will he be rich? What do you think? Will he be a king?
Usually from the royalty, right? Usually from the
Usually from the royalty. Usually from the royalty. Or usually, if not from the royalty, he will be a king. He will be a king. He would have become a king. Or he will be from the royalty. So you see all this. For example, in Buddha's life, he's a prince. In Jesus' life, he comes from the line of David. So
So
actually, these
sorry to
stories were,
interrupt.
yeah.
Sir, I have a doubt. So is it any necessary for having a hero become having a hero as a god like creature in the epic?
It's not necessary, but you
Okay,
you see that all the epics that we study, they always have
okay,
a hero who happens to be partly born of a god. You take Hercules. You
okay.
you
I
take
examined the Tamil historical epic Ponniyin Selvan, but the legend
yeah.
is Rajaraja Cholan, but the hero is a normal human being there. I have a doubt that. Could you
Yeah, that's
clarify
that
this,
is
sir?
precisely what that's very good that you're pointing it out. But if you see that particular epic you're talking about, you see that there's a gradual evolution even in literature, where immediately literature in the beginning starts talking about the history of gods. Then it becomes, the history of men who are both gods and men, half and half. And then gradually we come to those who are more men than gods, then only men. And probably the epic you are talking about, I don't know which age it comes from, but I'm almost sure that it will come after all these epics or epic heroes I'm talking about, where mankind has progressed to the level where they can consider a man as a hero, but still that man will have to be a king initially. It's a
This
gradual
is what
development if you come.
Royal Global.
Yeah, a book line.
yes, a bookline. Yes, a bookline. You have something to
Uh,
say?
Actually, ma'am, my internet connection is very bad. The light just came, so I wasn't able to hear most of it in the beginning, except for the epics from Finland, Norway, Beowulf, and then you spoke about Mahabharata and Ramayana, and then everything just got mixed up, and it came in as a robotic voice, and I wasn't able to hear properly.
Okay,
My
I'll tell
apologies
you
for
what
that, ma'am.
Sir said. He spoke about
Okay.
the hero. He spoke about the hero being a very important and essential character in an epic. And
Okay.
I think Dr. Yuvraj pointed out that usually he's half god and half man, which Dr. Koshy
Mm.
also agreed. And
Yeah.
in the Epic of Gilgamesh, Dr. Koshy said Gilgamesh is 2/3 God and 1/3 human being. So Rosalind had a question. She said, she is doing her research on Ponniyin Selvan, meaning the son of Ponni. And in that, actually, the main character is a king. So Dr. Koshy said, we don't know in which age it was written. So, but in the early ages, the heroes were usually gods or demigods. Gradually, it moved on to human beings who had less of God in them and more of the human element in
More
them.
of
And then
correct.
gradually
Yes.
it moved on to those who had more, who were fully human beings and who could still take care of things on their own. But
Correct.
the epic dealt with lofty themes. The hero had to be someone from the royalty, a king or a prince usually.
Correct. Yes.
Yes.
If I can just add on, ma'am, regarding the heroes of epics, I strongly believe that the rewriting of the heroes is what made them human. Um, as generations and centuries comes by or goes by, the rewriting of the story or the rewriting of these heroes changes their entire understanding of the hero itself, uh, and mainly because we start to let's say for example in my culture in the beginning we thought that we are only one family, one part, but then as we grow we realize that we also have many other people. We have the Khasis, the Garos, the Jaintias, like that. So I believe the reason why we start to think of the hero more of a man than a god is then because with the advent of science, and then there are a few phenomena that we can actually explain through scientific verifications. So I just thought I would add that as a point. I don't know if I make sense, but
No, this is very interesting. This is actually the kind of discussion we want where you are able to bring in your background because that enriches the whole conversation to a different level. So both what Rosalind was saying and what you're saying is really what this is the kind of discussion I want, how
yes,
you widen your perspective and the epic widens your perspective. Now, although Gilgamesh is a hero in the sense that he is a king in the beginning, but he is a king who got power by overthrowing his father in a way. But his mother is on his side, and his mother is considered a goddess. Her name is Nin Sun, Ninsun, Ninsun. And they worship the sun, but they also the city he comes from, in Babylon is called Uruk, and the sun god is called Shamash. But they also have a goddess guarding the city, that is Ishtar. And you find very strange relationships, because I know so much about epics. I don't want to go into it, but you may find it interesting. For example, in Tolkien, there is a character called Saruman who creates some orcs, and he gives them the name Uruk-hai, perhaps suggesting that they come from the city of Uruk. I mean, there are all kinds of connections that are very interesting to think about. If you think about it later. But this is it. This is what I want to tell you is these people are called heroes in epics not because they are. Ultimately we understand they are called heroes not because they are born from God, half God and half man, or because they are kings, but they evolve into being heroes through their mighty exploits or through their adventures, and through one of the main motives of the epic which I want to talk about. That is, an epic is about how a hero goes on a journey or a voyage or a quest, and he comes back after having succeeded or failed, or both succeeded and failed, as a wiser man, as a victorious man, as a sadder man, and or as a happier man. And it is then that he gets the name of. Hey guys, can I take a call from my wife? 2 minutes.
Yeah, sure.
I know I am giving a talk. I'm giving a talk. I'll call you back later. Okay. I'm really sorry.
No, no problem.
When I know, I mean, she doesn't know. There's a time gap. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Yes, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, we can hear you.
Okay. So yeah. So Gilgamesh also. You see, it's in the beginning. Gilgamesh is actually presented, and he has the support of the gods, and he has wise counselors. But he is shown as a person who is not good, who's bad. He takes away the children from the families to make them join his army without asking the permission of the father or the mother, and he rapes the women, or rather, he believes every woman he has the right, as because he's divine in a way. So in the city, he believes he has a right to sleep first with every woman before her husband sleeps with her, before the bridal night. He is the one who's supposed to take her virginity. And the people, and this is the amazing thing about this epic. The epic starts with the people complaining to the gods, saying, we are unable to bear with Gilgamesh because he is too proud, and he steals our sons away, and he rapes, or he takes away the virginity of our daughters. Now this is very important. You see, it's very important because that so many years ago that someone could complain, indirectly bring in a complaint against the king, against the rulers, and indirectly against the gods also, because he is half a god, or he's two-thirds gods. This is very interesting. So that Gilgamesh, so the gods listen to the prayer of the people, because they know that the king and the people must get along together. Otherwise, there will be havoc in the society. The society will break down, and that is where this character that Suja spoke of comes into the picture. The second important character called Enkidu. That is, the gods make a character called Enkidu and send him into the wild. He's wild. He lives with the animals, and he's supposed to be as strong as Gilgamesh. People are afraid of Gilgamesh because, like Achilles, he is the greatest warrior. You can't defeat him in individual battle. And that was one of the characteristics of the king in those days. The king had to defeat everyone in battle if he wanted to be the king. And he could do that. But when Enkidu was made, Enkidu was living in the forest with the animals, bringing in, a comparison between the city and the forest, urban life and rural life, even in that epic. And there, Enkidu was protecting all the animals, and a man saw Enkidu and filled with fright, so went to Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh said, if Enkidu sleeps with a temple prostitute for 7 days, Enkidu will lose his strength, become a man. Now he's just an animal. but he will become a man, and he will come to the city. The temple prostitute will bring him to the city. So they sent a temple prostitute. She seduces Enkidu. Enkidu sleeps with her 7 days, becomes weak. All the animals turn against Enkidu because they don't consider him anymore an animal. And the temple prostitute takes him to the city. But on the way, he stays with some shepherds. He's very happy as a man and with his new wife he has found. But one day, somebody tells him that Gilgamesh is, always raping women. And he gets very angry. Enkidu gets very angry and he says, I am going to the city to fight Gilgamesh. Tell him that I am stronger than him and he can't do this kind of injustice. And it's amazing. He goes and he fights with Gilgamesh, but Gilgamesh defeats him in battle, and then Enkidu becomes like his servant and brother and lover and friend. They become inseparable, Gilgamesh and Enkidu. And there's a sentence that says Enkidu looks just like, when the people see Enkidu, they say he looks like the spitting image of Gilgamesh. So that's also very interesting. You see like an alter ego, and it's just like kind of tale about the evolution of man. Enkidu, how we were started as animals and then we became tamed, and then we have a meeting with the gods, then we live with the shepherds. That's a rural background, from forest to the rural world and finally to the city. Enkidu's journey can be seen as the city, the journey into civilization. So what happens after this, I tell you very quickly, then we'll have the discussion. So Gilgamesh is happy, he has a friend, and then he suddenly gets this urge to become a hero, and what he needs is wood, because he wants to build a huge city and he needs wood. For that he has to cut down wood in the forest, and he tells Enkidu, I am going into the forest to cut down wood, and Enkidu says it's very dangerous. There's a monster living in the forest called Hambaba. Now this is another part. Now what I want to ask you, now I'm going to ask you a question. Tell me, does Shiva fight a monster? Hello.
Yes.
You need to
There are many asuras that Shiva fights. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, but is there any particular one he fights?
For example, he fights, for example, Bhasmasura.
Yes, Bhasmasura. Does Indra fight a monster? Do you know?
Vrittasura. But
Yes,
Bhasmasura
Vritta.
not Shiva, it's Vishnu does it. Shiva, yes. He fights against the three asuras of Tripura.
Yeah.
Indra fights Vrittasura.
Vritra. Yeah, this is what I want to point out. So even in in all the stories, you have to fight a dragon, and you have to defeat the dragon.
Okay.
In the later stories, right? And in the earlier stories, you have to fight a sea monster, like Krishna fights Kamsa.
Kalia.
Right?
Yeah, fights Kalia.
Yeah, Kalia. And it's either a sea monster, or it's a wild bull, or it's a dragon, a flying monster, or a snake, or or it's a demon, like Ravana. And so this is a pattern. So when he says, I'm going to cut down wood, Enkidu says, but you're going into the forest, you'll meet Hambaba. And he says, no, I'll pray to the sun god Shamash, and Shamash will help me. And he tells his mother, and his mother says, okay, you are restless, you are a restless soul, and you are not happy sitting at home and just being the king. So you have to go on this voyage. We can't do anything. This quest to bring back wood, this voyage, this journey. And the wood was floated back down the river, back to the kingdom. So that's why the sea comes in, and the forest comes in, the villages come in, the city comes in. And I'm telling you the structure, because if you understand this, you can write your own myth, you can write your own epic, really. We made 26. I made 26 students do it. They wrote their own mythologies because they understood the structure. Anyway, he goes out with Enkidu with the blessing of his mother and the sun god Shamash. And they meet Hambaba. And Hambaba says, "You are more powerful than I am. Don't kill me. I will help you to cut down the wood. It's my forest, I know." But Enkidu says, "Kill him immediately." Before his patron god knows about. Why does Enkidu say kill him? This is my question to you.
He doesn't want a rival.
Exactly. He commits what you would call, well, they didn't call it that because it's not so clear. But basically, he breaks the moral code. So he says kill him immediately because he doesn't want anyone else taking the position of, his position in the life of Gilgamesh. So, you see the seeds of many stories, actually all stories are the same story being retold in different combinations in a way, you can say. So if you see a story of, Lucifer and Jesus and God, or of David and Jonathan, and Saul. I mean, you see so many stories, in so many different traditions. You see the story of Ekalavya and Drona and Arjuna, it's all there. Similar, they're all very similar if you think of it in terms of, jealousy and envy. And how, therefore, the person who shouldn't have, who shouldn't have been killed gets killed. But it brings a curse. It brings a curse upon Enkidu. Because Hambaba was ready to kneel down before Gilgamesh, because Hambaba recognized that the sun god was supporting him, and his mother's prayers were, and Hambaba was ready to strike a compromise, but Enkidu makes Gilgamesh kill Hambaba. Now the second thing happens, they go back successful with the wood, and when they reach the city, Ishtar comes out. Ishtar, the goddess herself. Ishtar comes out and tells Gilgamesh, "I want you to be my lover. You have to sleep with me." And Gilgamesh asks Enkidu what to do. And Enkidu says, "Don't sleep with her. You are mightier than Ishtar." And Gilgamesh tells Ishtar, see, I know all your lovers. I know Tammuz. I know, all these are, names that come in the Bible, I know Tammuz. I know all your lovers, the shepherds. The sheep you turned into a wolf. The lion who served you, the bear. How after some time you changed your love. You fell in love with someone else. So after some time, you will desert me, and you will start loving someone else. So I refuse you. And this is the worst insult. Imagine you are a goddess. This is patriarchy. This is patriarchy, of course, but imagine you're a goddess and you tell a human being, "I'm in love with you, I want to sleep with you, I want you to be my lover." And this is also Venus and Adonis in a way. Venus goes after Adonis, Adonis keeps running away. But what happens is Ishtar gets so angry that she goes to her father and says, "Give me the bull of heaven, because I will not rest now till I have destroyed Gilgamesh and Enkidu for daring to,
Can I can I interrupt you, Professor?
please.
I have a question. Now, see, according to the Epic of Gilgamesh, in the epic, Enkidu sleeps with a sacred prostitute, a temple prostitute, right? For 7
Yes.
he is asked to sleep with him to evolve into a better human being. So, when that is the case with regard to a prostitute,
Yeah.
Is a goddess even lesser than a prostitute that Gilgamesh should refuse to sleep with her?
No, but we this are all this is a relative question, right? I mean, we don't know whether Enkidu became a better human being. Actually, he damned. You can also think that he damned himself. If he had remained in the forest as a wild animal, he wouldn't end up in the. Uh, I mean, he is the tragedy in the story. What happens to him?
Okay.
So, what do you think about that? I mean, I'm just countering you. I'm not saying yes or no. I just want to know what you think about it.
Well, if he, when I was reading about this encounter with Hambaba, I felt that Enkidu was doing the wrong thing because it doesn't stop with that, right? Even his 7 sons, Hambaba's 7 sons are also killed. They don't,
Destroyed, yeah, destroyed.
yeah,
Yeah, they don't spare anyone. They don't spare anyone.
yeah, so I feel, that Enkidu, the curse on Enkidu, and later on he's asked to take his place in the underworld. I somehow feel that divine justice has prevailed in that one sense, because one after the other he breaks the moral code. I don't know. I may be wrong. I may be taking it a little too personal.
That's okay. But you see, in the story of, Mahabali or Maveli in Kerala, Maveli is actually deceived by a dwarf or a child. There are two different stories.
Vamana.
And yeah, by Vamana. And the thing is that he is pushed into the underworld. Okay,
Yes.
because on the third step that Vamana takes, he has no place and he's pushed into the underworld, and he can come back only once a year. And all in Ravana's case, and in Maveli or Mahabali's case, whatever you want to, whichever word you want to use, you see, in the Bible also, they say kill all the enemies. Don't spare the men, women, children, cattle. Everything has to be decimated, So that, there's no question of somewhere down the line, many years later, these people coming back for revenge. And it was justified by saying, you get what I'm saying, no, Suja?
Yes, I can understand. Yes.
Yeah. So it's complex, So when Enkidu is talking traditional war language, that is, this guy's enemy. Don't trust him because later he may come back to kill you when he gets his freedom. And don't trust his children because they'll come back to kill you because they will definitely come for revenge for their father. And finally, you must remember that Hambaba is portrayed not as a human being but as a giant with supernatural powers. He breathes fire. I mean, he's not an ordinary assailant. I mean, he's not an ordinary antagonist. So the fear of Hambaba is greater than, the love of Hambaba. But it's also a very interesting way of how people look at strangers. That you go to a strange place and you think that, they should not be trusted.
Yes.
When
Yeah, because the meeting may end any minute. So I have sent a link in the chat window. Can you open it? It's just a new room because Zoom unfortunately allows us only 45 minutes or 40 minutes. So there is another link in the chat box. Can we all go there to that room if it is okay with all of us?
Yeah, fine, sure.
Yes, ma'am.
Or shall we have the next class where I don't do so much of the talking, but you all can, and
we'll finish this off. That's why I opened another meeting room so that we finish it off today.
okay, where do we go on Gmail?
No, just go here. Look at the chat box. Look at your chat box. I have included the link here. Either you have it or either you can just click on the link, the web link. It'll open. Even if you have an app, it'll open via your app.
Yeah.